First thing I'm going to do is get an air hose out here with a air nozzle and just blow the worst of this junk that's piled up on top of these fittings and these nuts down here, and I'm going to blow the worst of that off, and then I'm going to put some spray on all the nuts and bolts that have to come off. And let me crawl underneath here. This one here has to come off. This little pin right here has to come off, and so does this one here. This one, you got nut and screw on there. This one just has a clip holding on a hole inside this pin. That's got to come off. See, I may have to take this caging bolt back out so this will come out here so I can work with that. See over here on this side, if I get myself turned around here, on this side, this is all sticking out. The parking brake is on. This is out past this bracket, and there's room to get these this pin out of there and this nut and bolt. Over here we got room to get all that off of there, but on the other side with the caging bolt in, this is all pulled back inside and don't have room, so I may be taking that bolt back out to get these off of here. Well, we got the worst of the dirt blown off of there with the air hose, and got some penetrating oil on there. And while that's soaking, I'm going to go on ahead and back off that caging bolt. I'm going to put a jack under this frame and raise this up just a little bit more. I'm not going to use jack stands or nothing because the wheels are on. It can't fall off. If it were able to fall off, I still have plenty of room under there. It's just easier with it sitting up higher. Alright, here's the caging bolt. I'm going to put some spray on that to lube it up a little bit. I want to save these caging bolts, as many as I can, because they just don't hold up, and you never know when you're going to need them. You only use them 3 or 4 times, if that, and the nut strips out. The threaded rod usually stays good, but the nut goes bad for some reason. So anyway, I think it'll last longer if you just do it slow with a wrench or a ratchet. Now this is a special socket that somebody sent me that's for this. They're all 3/4 inch, 6-point, and this socket fits on there. And I did it with a wrench out on the job, out on the side of the road. So anyway, I can just turn this down with the wrench and get that off of there. But I'm going to spray some oil on there so it'll help save those threads. Now I got a small 1/2-inch drive impact wrench. That's a 1/2-inch drive socket. I can use this, but I think that's going to make it harder on that nut. It's going to make it strip faster. Actually, I would not be able to use that impact ratchet, that impact wrench. I would not be able to use that on this because this is too close to the frame up here. The frame's right there. I'd never get that in there. Well, maybe with a swivel, but then the airbag's right here. So this is the best way to do it. It's really not hard to turn it. Okay, got this backed off enough here. We just stick it in there. And this is always fun, to try to find that hole, that keyhole that this goes in. That is fun, but you got to push it in, turn it 90 degrees, and pull it up until it's locked, where you know it's hooked and it's not coming off of there. Then you hold it out there by the tip of this, and then with your other hand you screw this back down until the washer is tight against this. And I wasn't finding the hole. The hole was dirty. and I thought I was finding it, but it wasn't happening. So I took my wrench and I just tapped on the top of this a couple of times and it went through. So it was dirty, and you know, it's just something, you never know what you might run into. You got to do a little something different. Well, this could be a problem, but I think we're going to make it. I got this little one out. That pin obviously was seized up once before and was replaced with a 1/4 bolt. But this one here, I've been breaking it loose and it's tight. Get some oil in there. Hopefully we don't have to get a torch down here and heat it up. Get it turned around where I can get that pin out of there. We'll work on that for a few minutes. I got those pins out of there. I had to fight with them a bit, and I got the pins out, and since I didn't back the brake off, I had to pull the caging bolt back out again once I got those things off of there, and get the spring pressure from the brake off of this slack adjuster. So now we can get this pin out of here, and we can go ahead and take the caging bolt all the way out now. Or we can just leave the caging bolt in. It's in about halfway. I'll probably just leave it that way. So now I'm going to go ahead and take these air line fittings off, and I think those were 11/16 on mine. That's what they are, 11/16. And then I'm going to take these big bolts off that hold the unit on. That is the only thing left. Okay, I just noticed something here on when I was loosening these up. Since I don't do this every day, I'm just a driver. There's no swivel on this end, but there is up here on this end. So I got to break this one loose so that we can swivel that. Okay, I just broke that loose. It's a 7/8 up there, so this one will swivel. We can go ahead and unscrew this the rest of the way and do the same thing on this one. Got those brake lines, or those air lines, off of there, and then I just now broke this loose, this nut right here on this clevis. I just broke that lock nut loose and then snugged it down again, because it's easier to break that loose here than it is out there. Not that you have to have this off, but you usually do, because if the clevis they give you new isn't going to fit the same, the threads are the same on the rod, so you gotta have this clevis. You may have to use this clevis over again, and most of the time I think that's what I end up having to do. Okay, so I got that crack loose, and now I'm going to go ahead and take these off. Well, I cannot get an impact up here on this top one. I can on the bottom, but the top one won't fit up there, so I just put the wrench on there. What size is that? 15/16. I put that on there, and then I double wrench it. You just hook another wrench close to that size. Just hook it on there like this, and then got under there, and I broke that loose. So I'm going to have to get that one off of there like that. Okay, we're off. Now we gotta match things up. Okay, we got the right brake chamber, but we gotta make sure that these air lines are gonna be able to go in. So I got my bolts pretty much up and down over here, my mounting bolts, and same thing over here. And so these are straight out to the side over here, and so are these holes over here. They may not be 100% in the same exact position, but they're real close. If they weren't, what we do is put the caging bolt in, which we got to do anyway, but not before we cut this off where it needs to be cut off at. But what I would do is once the caging bolt's in, we can loosen this up and rotate this a little bit to get those matched up, get this end of it matched up with this end. But we don't need to do that since they're already in the right position. So, but before we put the caging bolt in over here, I'm going to take this one out, and once this comes, and I'll let this come out all the way, and then we have to measure from the end of this one that's cut off and cut this one off the same, and then we'll do that here in a minute. Now we're going to measure from the face of this, as long as this isn't falling apart. If it was, we'd have to measure from a different one. We'd have to take the other one off and measure out here, but we don't have to do that because this isn't falling apart here. All we did was blow a pancake inside of this. So we'll measure that out to here, and then we'll run this lock nut all the way down. We'll run that lock nut down to here. Okay, we're just about 3 7/8 inches. We'll just go ahead and cut this off at 4 inches. That's good. We'll mark this one and cut it off at 4 inches. Okay, I got this nut loose here, but I got a problem. This is seized onto here a little bit, so we'll hang a vice grip on here real tight. Hopefully we don't have to resort to a pipe wrench. Might have to do that. Whatever it takes to hold this still and try to get this off of there. And if it doesn't come off, then we'll have to use a torch and warm this up a little bit. Get that red hot and get it off. We have to use we have to use this self-adjusting clevis, because this one that comes with the new brake chamber is not going to work. As you can see, it's a totally different kind of clevis there. Totally different clevis. We cannot use this one. If it didn't have the self-adjusting end on it, we could, but can't. We might be able to use the pin out of it, but not the clevis. So we got to get this clevis off. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to put some heat on it. So I'm just going to heat this up red hot, and you cannot do this with a handheld propane torch. That will not work. You got to have something like this, and it's the only way you're going to heat that up. So I got to do that to break this loose off of there. It's seized up.